The years leading up to the opening shots of the Civil War were marked by a series of escalating crises and hard-fought compromises. From arguments at the 1787 Constitutional Convention about the closing of the international slave trade in 1808, to the Missouri Compromise of 1820 and the nullification of 1832, the political battles centered on protecting regional economic interests. The Compromise of 1850, with its more restrictive fugitive slave law, the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854 that resulted in bleeding Kansas, the Supreme Court's 1857 Dred Scott decision, and John Brown's 1859 raid on Harper's Ferry were among the complex string of incidents that haunted the country. Underlying all the economic, political, and social arguments was the issue of slavery. Should slavery be allowed in the new Western territories? Shouldn't slaveholders be allowed to take their human property into new states, just as they had taken them into Ohio and New York? If the federal government could outlaw slavery in the new territories, couldn't the federal government also outlaw in southern states, where it formed the basis of a thriving plantation economy? What about states' rights and the dearly valued individual property rights? Southerners argued that the Constitutional Compact guaranteed slavery. Political and religious leaders played on racial fears to win support from non-slaveholding whites. As the abolitionist movement grew in popularity, Southerners feared that their way of life was being threatened. In November of 1860, the presidential election of Republican candidate Abraham Lincoln, without a single electoral vote from the South, signaled that secession was imminent in South Carolina. The Republican Party stood for non-expansion of slavery, not for its abolition. Southerners who advocated states' rights saw this as a serious threat to their standard of living. South Carolina became the first state to secede from the Union on December 20th, 1860. The secession convention's vote was unanimous. Soon, 5 more states followed: Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, and Louisiana. At the time, there were 4 United States fortifications in the tri-state: Fort Johnson, Fort Sumter, Castle Pinckney, and Fort Moultrie. Of the 4, only Fort Moultrie was garrisoned, with 85 officers and enlisted men, commanded by Major Robert Anderson. But the fort was in need of major repairs, and Anderson considered it indefensible. Under the cover of darkness, on the night of December 26, 1860, Major Anderson moved his garrison from Fort Moultrie to Fort Sumter. Fort Sumter was the safest and most defensible position he could hold against attack, with its limited number of men supplies. Charleston in a few days, South Carolina militia had seized all federal property in the area, except Fort Sumter. Meeting in Montgomery, Alabama, in February 1861, the 6 seceded states formed the Confederate States of America. Jefferson Davis was elected as president of the newly formed nation. Almost all federal property, including arsenals, forts, and navy yards within the seceded states, were seized by state authorities. Texas was the 7th state to secede and was admitted into the Confederacy in March 1861. Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, and North Carolina would secede after the Civil War began. Though incomplete, Fort Sumter was still an impressive fortification. The Pentagon-shaped building had 5-foot thick walls that towered more than 50 feet above the water at low tide. Although Fort Sumter may have been the best location for Major Anderson and his men, the fort's defenses could only offer token resistance. Of the 135 guns planned for the fort, only 15 were mounted. On the parade ground lay 66 cannon barrels, gun carriages, and 5,600 shot and shell. For the next 3 months, Anderson and his command prepared Fort Sumter for combat, but by April 12th, a total of only 60 cannon stood ready. While the Federals strengthened their defenses, Confederate forces could be seen building batteries and mounting cannon along the harbor shoreline. 43 Southern cannon were trained on Fort Sumter, and more than 3,500 Confederate soldiers manned Charleston harbor defenses. By early April, the Federals were nearly out of food and would soon be starved into surrender if not resupplied. President Lincoln ordered the Navy to sail for Charleston in an attempt to resupply Major Anderson with provisions and additional troops. The Confederate government in Montgomery, Alabama, aware of the expedition, debated a course of action. They decided not to permit the resupplying of Fort Sumter. Confederate General P.G.T. Beauregard was ordered to demand the fort's evacuation and to take Fort Sumter by force if Anderson refused. On the afternoon of April 11, 1861, Anderson received the ultimatum from Beauregard. Major Anderson refused, stating that his garrison would be starved out by April 15th. But with the Union supply ships expected at any moment, the reply was considered unacceptable. Major Anderson was informed that Confederate forces would soon open fire on Fort Sumter. At 4:30 a.m. on April 12, 1861, with the first Union supply ships at the Charleston Harbor's entrance, a mortar shell was fired from Fort Johnson. It exploded directly over Fort Sumter, signaling all Confederate guns bearing on the fort to open fire. The American Civil